Hi,
Hi Cynthia, how are you?
great. And you?
I'm also okay. So welcome Cynthia. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you again. It's nice to meet you again. Now, welcome everyone. Today's session. My name is Doris Mwangi. I'm a medical student. I'm also one of the founders of Mshauri Youth Empowerment Program. Now, our organization focuses on quality education, personal development, and leadership as means of empowering children. So for this month, we're focusing on SDG 4, and we're interviewing change makers in our societies who are actually contributing to the goal. The aim is to create awareness about SDG 4 and to also inspire the public to take action and to find out different ways they can contribute towards SDG 4. So with me today is Cynthia Nyongesa, and I'd like her to introduce herself and tell us more about her.
Thank you so much, Doris. You're talking as if we've never talked on phone before. Oh well. Thank you so much for hosting me and the entire Mshauri team, Olive, Doris, the whole team. Thank you so much. It's always nice to work with you guys, especially because we met so randomly at the University of Nairobi. And thank you so much to everyone who's joining, Nino Dipo, Joseph Ambani. Thank you so much. Do tell a friend, tell a friend. So my name is Cynthia Nyongesa. I am a 25-year-old Kenyan who is passionate about amplifying the stories of young change makers in Africa. You can check out my digital platform, cynthiauntamed.com. You can also find it on YouTube. I've started getting into video in the recent months, so do check it out. And thank you so much for being here. I am passionate about the Sustainable Development Goals, but most especially Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education.
So, Cynthia, in terms of SDG 4, what have you done through Cynthia Untamed?
So first things first, Cynthia Untamed is all about amplifying the stories of young change makers in Africa. And when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, you'll see that we have so many goals. We have health, partnerships for the goals, water, climate, everything, all the issues that affect our planet. But when you specifically look at SDG 4, which also has targets, some people say that they don't know that the SDGs have targets. So when you look at target 4.7 of Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education, it's all about global citizenship education. So global citizenship is all about enabling people across the world to be the change that they want to see. If you're saying that my community is dirty, are you going to wait for the trash cleaner or the person who comes to pick up trash to come and collect it? Or are you going to find a sustainable way of disposing of that trash? And a lot of young people do not know that they can do something in their communities, which is why I am using my digital platform to inspire them to be global citizen and meet one of the targets. So that's what I mainly do. But on the other hand, I'm also very passionate about empowering young people to understand that education is not just about going to the classroom. It's also about them participating in many other activities, clubs and societies, whether they are at the university, in college, in high school, or in primary school, to enable them to contribute meaningfully to Kenya's economy, to Africa's economy. So I do go a lot to schools, participate in career days, especially at my former high school. What I also do is collaborate with other organizations like yours, for example, with friends to go into schools, very needy schools in the community, and we fundraise what we can to take a couple of books to the school, a couple of pencils, stationery, all that the schools may need, which I think is very important because without resources, then we're not able to do a lot of things. And there are lots of young people who have a much wider reach and much more established programs who I can collaborate with to meet SDG 4 on education.
So, Cynthia, someone is saying we have, Nino Dipo is saying we have an amazing video. Thank you for that. Now, Cynthia, what does quality education mean to you personally?
For me, quality education is all about enabling young people to be innovative. Because the challenge that we have in our current education system, and I was very surprised that this is the same thing in American systems and everywhere, is that you're trained to regurgitate what you study. So like I remember in school, they used to tell us, do not write any answer that is outside of the KLB syllabus. Is it still KLB? Rather the Kenya KICD syllabus. Do not write anything outside of that textbook. So for example, I remember at one time when I was doing chemistry in high school, my dad bought me a chemistry dictionary. And he told me, oh, be using this to get, some definitions of the words in chemistry, get some more information. And I went to school with this chemistry dictionary, feeling all cool and everything. And when I started writing some answers from that dictionary, some definitions from that chemistry dictionary, the teacher wouldn't allow it. They were like, no, you have to write what we tell you. What we tell you is the right answer. Even if you got it from a chemistry dictionary, it does not matter if it was written by Albert Einstein. You have to write what the ICD says. And so you find that in instances like that, then we're just being taught to repeat. You're told evolution of man is like this, then you repeat it like that in your exam. And so what happens when you get out into the real world, especially after Form 4, you begin to realize that the things you studied in high school, either you've forgotten them or they're not enabling you to meaningfully contribute to the community. So for me, education is all about being innovative. When I go to school, I get information in my head. Fine. Am I able to use that information to create jobs in the community? Am I able to use the information that I go to an existing workplace and transform how the system works? Am I able to study something in mathematics and use that formula to come up with something interesting? If I study, for example, if I study history, and in history they talk about culture, they talk about how Kenya became independent, am I able, for example, to understand that in history we have gaps in terms of telling the story? Because, for example, I haven't had many stories from my community about how they fought for the independence of Kenya. I haven't had many stories. So as a person who studied history, am I able to find a way of looking for that information and enable the Kenya National Archives, for example, to get information from my community about the history of Kenya that is somehow missing? So it's all about being innovative somehow.
I like your approach, Cynthia, because I also share the same with you, the same view with you, because nowadays we have a lot of graduates and most, quite a good number of them don't have, jobs. And I feel like if we went to school and we are able to apply what we learned to actually solve the problems that we have in our communities, then it would be easier for us to, even if we can't get jobs, we can actually create opportunities for ourselves. Now, Bobby, thank you for joining us. I see Anita, thank you for joining us. Mose, Davis, Clinton, Mike, thank you for joining us. Now, my next question is, Cynthia, what inspired you to start the blog Cynthia Untamed?
So Cynthia Untamed was actually born out of information that came to me that I had never thought of. So one time I was having a conversation with a youth fund ambassador from our village, and he was telling me, I work in managing the funds in the local community, and every time I talk to young people and children your age, it's always lack of opportunity, lack of access to education, abuse of drugs, all these things, all these challenges that young people go through. So it's like, why don't you reach out to someone famous who can highlight this story, and then somehow there's going to be funding, a lot of money for this situation. So that is, like, you've never been exposed to issues like this. Like, you knew they exist, but you just never really think about them. So of course I reached out to this person who was my mentor at the time, and I was like, can you come to our community and sort of help us to solve this situation? So she started telling me how there was a time she interviewed the late Professor Wangari Maathai. If you do not know Professor Wangari Maathai, she is a Nobel laureate, an African woman who was passionate about the environment and justice for Kenya and women especially. So she was telling me that she interviewed her, and she had asked her, what will you do for Kenya? You as Professor Wangari Maathai. And Professor Wangari Maathai told her, no, don't ask me what I will do for Kenya. Ask yourself what you will do for Kenya. And you know, Professor Wangari Maathai was a scholar through the JF Kennedy airlifting program, something like that. And JF Kennedy, I think in one of his inauguration speeches, if I'm not wrong, he had said, ask me not what I will do for my country, ask yourself what you will do for your country. For your country. So you can imagine the words came from JF Kennedy onto Professor Wangari Maathai, onto my mentor, and then somehow to me. And so she was like, go and look for a way to help your community. And there I am. And of course, I do not have resources. I was a 19-year-old first-year student at the University of Nairobi. I do not come from a wealthy family. I'm just a normal, ordinary Kenyan girl who's looking for opportunity. But I remembered, and this is where I especially thank my former high school. I know we have all these hilarious memes about I went to Alliance, which I laugh at a lot. I laugh a lot at them, but I still give credit to that school because it really shaped my vision towards opportunities and my aspirations. Because I remember when I was there, we used to have all these people from Equity Wings to Fly coming to a school. We used to have people from Brookhouse, people from Canada, and seeing a minister walking in and out every other day was not, it wasn't such a big thing. It was normal. It was normal to see people like this coming to a school, and therefore ambition was easily formed. So it's like, how can I get those same resources to young people who've never had access to such resources? And so I started looking for those organizations just from my head. I started Googling them. Email to Equity Wings to Fly, email to Kenyatta Trust, email to Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. I remember I wrote to so many organizations asking them to come and support the people in my community. I tried to reach out to them on Twitter. And that's when Equity Bank actually responded to me via Twitter. I just told them, follow me, I have something to say. So they followed back. Then I inboxed them. Then they gave me an email of somebody. Then they told me, go and see this person. So I think this person was in charge of education programs at Equity. They told me, go see this person. So I reached out to the person. They told me, come on this particular day. I remember, I think I bought some clothes from Gara, some coat and a trouser that did not even match each other. And that's how I went to Upper Hill. I'd never been to Upper Hill on my own. I just went to town. Then I was like, gari gani inaenda hapa Equity Bank. So then I went to Equity Bank. I got there, and the guy who had told me to go, the guy who gave me the appointment, just wasn't there on the day that he told me to go. And so when I got there, somebody approached me because they thought I was looking for a scholarship. And they're like, why are you here? That's when I started explaining that whole challenge. And that's when they told me that the Equity Wings to Fly program, that's the scholarship program for Equity, and Doris, you're a beneficiary of that. They told me, we have this and we're looking for volunteer mentors. Would you like to volunteer even if you're not a beneficiary of the Wings to Fly program? And so I said yes. And that's where my inspiration came from. And that's how I just started volunteering, and I got engaged through many other things and the networks that I got from that point.
Now, Cynthia, when did you start Cynthia Untamed?
So specifically, Cynthia Untamed started in 2016, right after. So after this story that I've told you about Equity, in 2016, there was the World Bank Kenya Blog for Development competition. If you've not heard of it, make sure you participate at the end of the year. It's now open to the Africa continent for all young people up to 28 years old, 18 to 28. So that time they had opened up, and the question for that year was, what opportunities would you create for young people in your community? So like I've told you the story of having a mentor and experiencing JFK's words somehow, I was like, okay, I'll write about how young people can have mentors. And I was there quoting Oprah Winfrey. I think that Oprah Winfrey quote really helped me, by the way. I was like, Oprah Winfrey said, we do not stand on the giants of shoulders, or something about giants and shoulders. So I was one of the 10 shortlisted, and I got the interview. So me, I was like, what? After the journey I've had in the past year, definitely this competition is meant for me. I'm meant to win it, go to Washington, blah, 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 blah. I did not win the competition. Let me tell you, I was so disappointed, so broken, so discouraged, so down. I was just like, God, how can you give me such a big opportunity and then leave me at the door? Why didn't you just let me win the competition? Like, I had so many questions for God. And you know how God works is very interesting. This was his way of connecting me to a space where I could learn, connecting me to somebody who could teach me how the advocacy space works. So it's one of the ladies who interviewed me who reached out to me later on when I was still crying, and she was like, come at the end of April, I remember it was April 2016, come at the end of April 2016 to my office at the World Bank. Let's just talk. And so I went, and I think I spent 2 hours with her. And she was like, you know, during the interview, this is how it went. She actually gave me a breakdown of how other people performed compared to me. Where were my gaps? What did I do well? You know, and she was like, now I think you can actually start a brand that impacts young people and creates opportunities for them. So why don't you sit down and think about your strength? And my strength was I was doing law, but I also had a strength in communication. And that's how I started Cynthia Untamed, after thinking about how I could amplify stories. So I was like, okay, young people are resilient, they're wild, they're determined. Oh, well, then they're untamed. They're not domesticated, that's the word to use. They're out there, they're change makers, so they're untamed. And of course, I didn't want people to ask me whether it's my platform. So Cynthia Untamed was born in 2016. That was the whole story.